I'm Beth Ann.
What's up? I'm Ayla.
This is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. It is Sunday, Series Sunday. It's that one day of the week when we talk about all things one series and one series only. So if you have not seen the series, turn back now or prepare to be spoiled.
Yes.
It's a classic, though. It's also was
Yeah.
a suggested.
Yeah.
Back when we started season 2, we asked for Series Sunday suggestions, and this was a Series Sunday suggestion, and I'm very excited about it because I really dig this show.
And if you haven't watched this, like, again, there's certain shows that when you become a BL fan, these are the shows that you need to have on your belt.
And I think the other thing about this show is that for a while, it was very widely accessible to the Western market via Netflix.
Right.
So I feel like most people have seen this. Now, if you haven't read the title yet and don't know what we're talking about, today we're talking about SOTUS. SOTUS.
What does SOTUS mean?
This is actually a plot point in the show. Remember, they have to figure out what SOTUS stands for?
Sure.
It's like a game. We're about to talk about this show. And
clearly I pay real close attention.
And like Kongpob figures it out, and like all the friends help, and it's like a whole thing. Because they have to spell out what SOTUS means to get to the top.
To capture the flag.
Yes.
Right.
Beth Ann, what does SOTUS mean?
Upon rewatch, I was like glossing through it. Okay, let's get to the nuts and bolts of this before we like get into the good stuff. Came out in 2016, so we
sure
are
did.
5
it's an
years.
OG.
5 years.
It's an original.
It's on YouTube now. It's from GMMTV.
Sure is.
Fun fact: the director of this directed Love Mechanics.
Yes.
The screenwriter of this wrote Together with Me.
Another classic.
It's so funny. Like the BL behind the scenes world is so connected.
Yeah.
And also like when you think of SOTUS and you think of Together with Me.
Right. Like, I mean, they came out in the same year. They both came out in 2016. Yeah.
Were they both based on mangas?
To be completely honest with you, I'm not sure.
Are they called novels? What are they called?
I mean, some of them are based on mangas and some of them are based on novels. So, yeah.
Okay. We have, of course, Kongpob, played by Singto. We have Artit, played by Chris.
Yes.
The Chris Singto.
The one and only. One of the OG ships.
Yeah. That are still alive and well
doing
today.
Ship work. Still doing ship work.
So
Singto has left GMMTV and they are still doing ship work.
And has at least 20 boys since this.
And Chris has a new boy?
Yes. Singto is doing ship work with Tay. It's wild.
Tay. I'm trying to learn.
He had like 10 boys in Baker Boys. He was the gay conqueror.
He had Ohm in He's Coming to Me. Singto has had many a boy.
Yeah. It's interesting the boys that can evade the
only one ship curse.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Okay. Get to the synopsis.
The synopsis.
I'll sip my pink milk while you
synopsis. The gear is one of the engineering mechanical devices in the cogwheel system, as in a clock. Having one signifies that one is a student of the Faculty of Engineering. However, to get one, all engineering freshmen must first undergo the SOTUS, acronym for Seniority, Order, Tradition, Unity, and Spirit System. Artit, one of the third-year seniors, often abuses his power over the freshmen by making them do things against the rules. Freshman students are practically powerless to complain or resist any orders given by their seniors. Artit was seemingly unstoppable until Kongpob stood up against the abuses by the former. Continual encounters between the two developed from animosity to something much more affectionate.
Cute. That's a solid synopsis.
It's an interesting synopsis because I think it depends on how you interpret the show.
I mean, I think it's true to life because as upon rewatch, I forget that you know, the good old days where you literally have to go through a whole show before you get to the actual couple in episode 10.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, I will say, okay, so I think that was like my main complaint about SOTUS when I watched it, is I was like, I was so heavily invested in Kongpob and Artit because truly, I mean, they kill it. There's like an emotional, like they're both sobbing in their dorm rooms on the phone together scene, right? And I'm like invested.
Yeah. That's a good
I
scene.
am fully on board with Kongpob and Artit.
Right.
And like they have this sweet like rooftop scene, and they have this situation where they like tell everyone they know that they're into each other.
Yeah.
It's like it's very good. It's very, very good. The relationship development is really good. And I'm like so invested in this couple.
And they
get
into,
together.
Like, literally 3 episodes.
You don't even get the full 3 episodes. Like you don't get to watch them be a couple
until season 2.
Right, until SOTUS S.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about SOTUS S. We're talking about SOTUS.
Right.
And I was so frustrated when they finally got together. I was like, yes, I'm going to get the couple moments. I'm going to see them be a couple. And no, it's basically like a fast forwardy montage through them like sitting in the dorm room, like eating noodles together and talking. And I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. And I'm very upset and I'm very disappointed. And like, I really was going through it over the fact that I didn't get to see them be a couple because the relationship development on this one was so strong, and I was just like, I wanted it. I wanted the cute like hand holding and like talking, and I wanted all of that.
Is that? I wonder if they plan season 2 before they release season 1. Like, was season 2 always going to happen?
I have no idea.
I don't either.
GMMTV, if you're listening.
Yeah. Listeners, if you know, was season 2 planned? Because when you watch the finale of SOTUS, they fully are like, there's a special episode where you like go through whatever, and then I think they talk about season 2. So maybe they had season 2 planned because like you had Still Together right after Together. So maybe like old school GMMTV was like a
on the game
2-season situation.
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting.
But yeah, so I will say the thing about the synopsis.
Yeah.
About this whole like the animosity developed into affection. I actually think Kongpob always thought Artit was cute. Like he always enjoyed messing with him. I think from the beginning he realized when he ruffled his feathers when he said, because the opening scene when Artit is like, how are you going to take it from me? And he's holding the gear. And Kongpob is like, I would take it from you. Right? Like when Kongpob realizes that he can ruffle Artit's feathers, I think he really likes it and thinks it's really cute. And I think he had a crush from the beginning.
Yeah, and Artit has no chill. He's like so startled that this like, because Singto plays it pretty straight. Like, I think Singto as an actor plays it pretty like, there's not a ton of emotion. Like, he's not very emotive. So it's so interesting because he drops this line and it takes you a second because you're like, did I just hear that? Like, he fully, in that first scene where he's like, I'm gonna make you my wife. You're like, wait, what? Like, did that.
Okay, so I talked about my most frustrating part of the show.
Yeah.
My favorite part of SOTUS, hands down, are all of the random flirting that Kongpob does, because it's always so out of place.
You're put off as much as Artit is put off, so you totally understand where Artit's coming from because you're like, oh yeah, I don't understand.
It's so weird. Like when Artit is like crying after the wrist tying ceremony.
Yes.
And because he's like emotional that he's like led these children to like do the thing, which like now that I like have my own like gaggle of children, like I understand like the emotion of being proud of them.
Are you talking about the You're My Sky cast?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Like I understand, you're like, oh my god, I'm so proud.
Stay tuned for some fun projects that we've been working on for the You're My Sky cast.
But like, so I get it. He's like emotional. He's like, my children are like, like my children are growing and thriving. Yeah.
And they recognize your like leadership in that. Hopefully one day.
And like they recognize. And like they recognize that he's like he hasn't been mean to them. He's just been trying to get them to bond. And he's I mean, Sweet Artite is like really going through it over this.
He goes through it over
he goes
everything.
Through it a lot. He's very emotional.
No wonder you love him.
I love him so much. I really
he has like full counseling sessions with so many of the characters in this show.
Yeah, he goes through it. He has a lot of feelings.
Which, hey, like
he's just going through
the emotional maturity that this boy kind of sort of has.
He's just going
pretty
through
impressive.
Something. Anyways, he's crying after this like wrist tying ceremony, and Kongpob finds him, and he's like, "Are you okay?" Like I'm. And at first, it's like a nice moment, and then he's like, "Next time you have to cry, come find me, and like you can use my shoulder."
He says, "I'll wipe your tears for you."
Yeah,
which is like way more intimate.
It's so weird and out of place. Like I was like, "What?"
Yeah. The BL of this show is so interesting because it's one of those things where this was in the golden age of the engineering, the university, all that kind of stuff. And so we just had a conversation with someone where they talked about why engineering was chosen. You gonna be okay?
I have no chill.
Stay tuned for that as well.
I have the opposite of chill. What is the opposite of chill? And that's how
it's
I feel
funny.
about.
I thought about bringing this up, and I was like, Ayla's gonna lose it over this. I'm so excited to talk about this. So they chose engineering, if you don't know, because the typical engineer student is like very masculine. It's like it's one of those things. It's like to have a gay boy in engineering is like breaking a stereotype. I need you to pull it together.
I can't.
Stay tuned for more explanation. This person explains it way better. But so anyways, so it makes so much more sense because we talked to that person midway through my rewatch. Oh my god, I love this for you. So then upon watching it, it was like a revelation, right? It was like, oh yeah, these boys are like supposed to be stereotypically masculine and like,
and that's why he's so mean.
Oh my god.
I'm so sorry. I have absolutely no chill.
I love it so much.
Oh my god. Okay.
So the engineering of it all is so interesting to think about, that it wasn't just that they chose a random major. It was like to go against the stereotype,
right? The cultural norm of it all.
Yeah, which is so interesting. And so watching this the first time, I was so interested in like the university aspect of it, because we've talked about this before. A lot of the cultural stuff is so drastically different than what we have here in the States.
We have the university life specifically.
Yeah.
Is nothing like it. And I mean, I loved my college time.
Yeah,
I loved college so much I went twice.
Truly.
But like I was really involved when I got my undergrad, when I got my first 4-year degree.
Same.
I was like super involved. I was like in like I was like I had a position. I was like the secretary of something, and I was like in a club, and I like did all the things. And I was in one of those clubs that does like basically like Spirit Week, like the first week of school for freshmen.
Right.
And you like make sure they get their parking
like
pass.
ambassadors. They called them ambassadors.
We were called campus ambassadors.
Yeah. I think everybody does that.
And so I was like really into like that aspect of college life. And even with all of that, like what you see in Thai dramas as far as university life is so different that it's like always been fascinating.
You know what's funny about this show is that usually in shows they're like there's that disclaimer that's like these are fictional characters. Like basically like don't copy this behavior.
Right.
This one was like this hazing is dramatized, and so like don't be afraid that like you're gonna get hazed at college, which is really funny. Which is really ironic because Korea just went through this whole like bully situation.
Yes.
So anyways, but yeah, the university aspect in this show I think is what kind of enthralls at least foreign viewers for a while, and then you get to the BL part and you're like, oh right, we're here for the two boys. Right. Okay, so also let's get into the side characters because there's a good amount.
Baby Off. Off. Baby Off.
Cute little Off who plays Bright.
Sweet little Baby Off, and he's got like the hairstyle and the face, and he's Off.
I love these GMM TV shows where a random other actor like makes a appearance. I mean, he has like a recurring role. I feel like you
Right.
don't get that. You get it probably more so now because the groups of friends are like more involved. But then this show also has like a handful of actors that like you never see after this.
Yes,
Like
accurate.
the boy who plays
Fluke, right?
The no.
No.
The boy who plays I just know the actor's name because I was like,
Oh,
oh,
Oak maybe?
maybe. His name is Ice. The actor's name is Ice, and he's just like a fitness instructor. Because I was like,
oh, I know who you're talking about, not
like,
Oak.
I was like, who is this boy? He's the boy that Artite has all the conversations with. The hyper, like the super masculine,
the very like buff guy.
Yeah. So we have New plays M.
Yes. Also, Baby New.
Also hilarious because they made him straight in this one.
He is straight.
And him and Mean have
he gets with Neen.
Who and plays May.
Yes.
Who sweet May is going through it.
Kind of eventually gets with May.
Does he get with May and SOTUS S? Because
right by the end of SOTUS, they are not together. He's just finally confessed.
Right, because she's like, give me time.
Because she has been in love with Kongpob, right. Which we have talked a lot, I feel like on the podcast, multiple times we've brought up that like I learned my first Thai characters based on an eraser from a show. This is the show. This is the eraser. Because she writes Kongpob on her eraser, and as it erases each individual character. And on the show, when she's writing it, they spell it out in the subtitles. Like when she writes the character for K, on the subtitles it says K, and that's how the very first Thai word that I learned how to spell by like sight was Kongpob.
Amazing. Yeah, I need to work on my Thai vocab.
Thai alphabet.
So yeah, May and M's little like friendship that eventually May has a conversation with Kongpob, a very mature, like reasonable conversation.
He's like, it's not gonna happen, girl.
Yeah, and she's like, okay, and she's like very sweet and like accepts it. But yeah, so I watched like the first episode of SOTUS S, and like M has a conversation with Kongpob and is like, it's hard to go from friends to lovers, and so like he still hasn't made it happen after 3 years. So
yeah, like
maybe it happens in SOTUS S.
Children.
We also have Gunsmile,
who I think is the only boy in this show I have actually cried over.
Amazing. And then another Fluke plays Wad, which I don't know if you picked up on this, but there were moments where, so Wad is the character, however you pronounce it, who had some kind of issue in high school with seniors.
Right. He's like, I'm not gonna SOTUS.
Yeah. So he's very like anti this whole like hazing situation. Yeah. And him and Gunsmile have some like moments together where you're like, are they insinuating?
Yes.
It's
that like this might,
which is cute. Like they have some really sweet moments where it's like he's just trying to like be a good senior to him.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go rewatch SOTUS S just to like remember, because
I liked SOTUS S
because Fiat shows up in SOTUS S and I love Fiat.
I like SOTUS S.
Yeah. We also have Jan.
Yes.
One of our first GL characters.
Kind of GL. I mean, it's basically just that she declares herself to be a lesbian.
I was going to say, what's funny is it's the same thing from Dark Blue Kiss, where they don't say, I like girls. They say, I don't like men.
Yeah.
But then other
Which,
characters,
by the way, is like a fair.
Like fair. But other characters within the show are like, she doesn't like guys, like she likes girls.
GMMTV has had this very like slow burn crawl towards GLs. Like they in the beginning were very much like, here's a girl and she doesn't like men, but we're not going to do anything with her, she's just going to be there,
right?
And that's what happened here.
So fun.
And Top Tap shows up. A wild Top Tap appears.
An absolutely wild Top Tap, because Top Tap's character in this is a complete asshole.
And he's not in the credits.
Which is so funny to me.
Initially.
Because, like, Top Tap is, like, a sweet boy.
Right.
Usually he plays these, like, wholesome characters.
Well, in Together, he kind of sucked.
Yeah, I need to go rewatch Together, because I don't... Oh, he did... Yeah. He comes around in Together.
But he's like, he kind of sucked in Together.
Yeah. Also, isn't he kind of a gang baby in in 3 Will Be Free.
Yeah, he's a gang baby, but he's like a nice gang baby,
That's
remember?
true.
I mean, he does stab Tay, but like in a nice way.
Yeah. He like, yeah.
And yeah, like,
but
3
also,
Will Be Free spoilers.
So, and then Alice, one of our favorites.
Yes.
Alice appears.
Alice. So English with Alice. If you're like, who is this girl and why does she know all the boys?
One of the owners,
she's an actress.
Too cute to
be cool.
Yeah.
Also like really good. She's like a 91 liner with like Off and Tay.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's like besties with them, which is so fun. But her storyline is really fun because it gives context to Artit a little bit. Like I feel like he needed to be humanized.
Right, because he like initially he's so mean.
Right. He just plays that like hazer. And so there's no like softness to him. And so to see him kind of go through it over this girl, and you are like, oh, like he has a heart. He like,
well, they slowly roll his softness out. So like another one of the first moments where you see Artit be soft is when Kongpob and I can't remember who he's with, but they're in the like medical room after one of the hazing activities.
Right.
And they're grabbing something to eat, right? And he comes in and he gives them oranges.
But he gives Kongpob 2 oranges.
Right. But also like the beginning of this is like he has brought multiple ointments. We got some more ointment action, y'all.
Oh, amazing.
This is the like introduction of the ointments. So like,
P-off, where you at?
He P-off like consulted, I'm sure.
Yeah.
His notes were needs ointment.
Amazing.
But like he has this conversation with the medical girl where he's like, you said you needed ointment, but you didn't say which kind, and so I bought every kind they had at the store and I brought them all.
Adorable.
And because he's like privately concerned about the freshmen, but like he's the hazing senior, so he can't be publicly concerned about the freshmen. So like that's where you see his softness and you see like there's more to this boy. And then also like you see the part in the show where Kongpob has to go back to the school, which by the way, how wild are like Thai universities that you can just like show up on campus after school and a campus security guard isn't like, hey, like what's happening here?
I mean, at my university, all the buildings had card swipes. So at least the like some of the buildings where you needed to like access a computer, like in the arts buildings, like you could go into all the buildings with a key card.
That did not happen at either one of my universities.
I was like, also pretty like small, isolated school.
Yeah, at my schools, you fully could not get into like a classroom building after hours. Like if it was dark outside and the lights weren't on, that building was locked and you were not getting in. Especially and like good luck if you have an 8 a.m. class and you get there early, like you're sitting outside in the cold.
Especially the arts buildings, because like if people needed to like go play the piano or like go throw a pot, like you could fully do that kind of stuff. Right. But yeah.
So anyways, so
well, and it's pitch black, which is like the creepiest part.
So Kongpob has gone back to university because he's left his notes and he hears yelling and he's like he's like being nosy.
Yeah.
And he goes and he sees like Kongpob like getting yelled at by his senior.
Right.
And he like, and it's, and then he ends up trying to hide and he can't hide. And Artit sees him.
Yeah. He throws and another one of his
little
one-liners.
Like, he throws a little cheesy pickup line at him. And they have this little like stairwell confrontation. And you see, I feel like every time you see Artit get thrown, that's his softness. Like you're like, oh, this boy do be soft though.
Yeah. Another little situation that we have in this show that like you don't see anywhere else or haven't seen before is the fact that Artit's apartment floods and he has to go spend the night with Kongpob.
Oh, right. And all of his books get ruined.
Okay, here's a question. His books get ruined because they're wet, and then he puts them in the freezer. Can you explain that to me? Do you know why he would put them in the freezer? Because like the water would freeze, but it doesn't dry. Like I'm confused.
I mean, my only guess, I'm sure there's like some like science-y person who can answer this question. I'm a communications major, so like
none of those degrees you got will work for this.
Yeah, I have multiple degrees and they're all like arts communications, like let's make books.
Yeah. Amazing.
But like the only thing I can think, because again, in my let's make books degree,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I
yeah.
did get from a private university,
Love it.
is that the freezer would stop the bacteria from growing and therefore the pages wouldn't mold.
Okay.
So like if the book were to dry out, like if he, so like, yeah, basically mold wouldn't grow and then he could use the book. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure the like science behind would the pages then
Freeze
when
together?
it thawed, and like when it thawed, like I don't know how all of that would work, but like yes, theoretically, if you put it in the freezer, bacteria will not grow and therefore it won't mold.
Interesting.
Because you can do that with clothes too, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, like if you don't want to wash like a piece of clothing for some reason,
people
throw it
freeze
in the
them.
freezer.
Yeah. Interesting. So I thought that was a really strange thing, but that whole bed scene that we get with them where he like confesses his feelings is like it's a pretty great scene.
Honestly, there is a reason that Chris and Singto are so beloved as a ship.
Mm-hmm.
The chemistry that they have, the way that they act together,
right,
the way that they are together, I mean, like they're just on top of it. And honestly, like one of my favorite scenes in the whole show is that scene I was joking about where they're on the phone in their separate apartments.
Yeah.
And they're talking about it. And like truly Artete, they're both going through it, but like Artete is explaining that like he just needs time. Like he's not saying no, he's just saying like he doesn't understand. Like he doesn't understand himself and his own feelings. And he's not saying no, and he's not saying, all he's saying is he doesn't know. Right. Like he's still trying to figure it out. And I think that's such like a beautiful scene, and I really like it. And like he is clearly just as upset about it as Kongpob is, because like he wants to give Kongpob an answer and he wants to get there, but like it's so new and foreign and different, and he doesn't know, like he genuinely doesn't get it within himself yet. And I love that scene. And honestly, the way that they handle just like that particular scene, like I think there's like the way they finally get there is like is a little haphazard. But like that particular scene, I think the way they handle it is so nice. And like that is the conversation that should have happened, let's be clear, in Gen Y season 1. Like that is what should have happened after that confession in Gen Y season 1 and didn't. And so I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I also really like that Artete goes to a couple of different people to like have like these moments, these like conversations.
He's like, help me.
Where he's like, isn't it complicated for it to be a man and a man? And they're like, you're overthinking
they're
it,
like,
bro.
no.
Just get it.
No.
I do like the fact that he then is the one that like fully like makes them public.
Yeah.
And is like, this is my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Just very cute.
And because he's ready, right? Like he's realized he's here for it. He's internalized.
Yeah.
He's healthy, kind of ish.
This is truly the show where we get a lot of those tropes where like you have that moment where Kongpob is like, where M is like, I didn't know you liked men, and Kongpob is like, I don't like men. I like Artete.
Yeah.
And like all that kind of stuff, which is really funny.
And he's like, if it's not Artete, I wouldn't like them. Yeah.
You also have like the iconic bridge kiss.
You do.
That bridge. It's an iconic bridge. I can't wait to go to that bridge when I go to Thailand one day, because it shows up a couple of different times.
It does. Yeah.
What is the other? I'm trying to think.
It's also in Tonhan, I think.
Yes.
Is it Tonhan? I think it's Tonhan.
Yes. They're on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
It's also in Tonhan.
Amazing.
I'm sure it's in a couple others.
Yeah.
I wonder, is that the bridge from Futz when that little girl like cons Neo out of his tumbler? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if it's the same.
That'd be funny.
I don't know.
Also, did you realize that like all their kisses happen outside?
Yeah. Also in SOTUS S, they have like a really sweet outside kiss.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
These have some iconic scenes in like the BL scope of, I mean, of course it's like a BL
it's an original. Yeah.
Yeah, this show was interesting especially having gone into BL the way that I did.
Right.
And also,
yeah, because you went hard.
Yeah. So when you come into BL in 2020 or later, so like if you're getting into BL in 2022, like and you're watching currently airing shows, and then you go back and watch those GMMTV OG shows,
you're probably like,
it's such an interesting. I mean, I think it's like now watching like Euphoria and going back and watching Dawson's Creek. You're like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's the context of the time. And if you think about like 2016, like we talk about how BL time makes no sense.
It makes no sense because things get muddled in your brain.
Because you watch 20 shows from like 5 years. Because BL kind of started in what, like 2014, I think was like the first one when like Lovesick came out. And
then it got like, it started getting heated in 2016.
Right. And so it's interesting to kind of go back and watch those, knowing the context of kind of the situation you're dealing with, and then to really like fast forward to like a Bad Buddy. You're like, that was the issue that I always had with those older shows, was that you have a situation where like these two guys get together and they're like not touching, and they like seem a little put off. Like that's happening in Gen Y season 2 a little bit, where like Kim and Cop are fully together and have been together for years, and they're like, don't touch me, or like are surprised when they kiss. And it's the same thing with like a SOTUS or a Together, where when these characters get together, you fully want them to be affectionate and like Pat and Pran were in Bad Buddy. And so that was the issue that I always had, especially because I went in with like Why Are You and Tarn Type, where I mean Tarn Type's a little different because they're just like hate banging the whole time. But I will say, like, this was there are two people kind of that watch BLs, and we're definitely those two people where it's like you're like, I'm here for the story. And he's just going through something.
He's
and I'm
just
like,
going through something.
Yeah. Let's watch him kiss occasionally. And so yeah, this is an interesting watch, but I highly recommend like everybody, if like you get into BLs later, to go back and watch these shows.
I had an interesting journey with this one specifically because, again, when you first get into BL time makes no sense because like you're watching, you know that you've got this list of like OG shows that you have to watch, right? People always say like, well, if this is on your list, you have to watch this one, right? And so like I watched this after I understood the context of, and I knew that and why people did not like Chris. So like I went into this show kind of being like, ew. Because at that point I was such a new BL fan that all I knew about Chris, because Chris Singto was already established, and quite frankly, Singto was like in the process of leaving GMMTV when I when I first got into BL. Singto was only in GMMTV for like a month or something before he made the announcement that he left. So like I understood that Chris Singto was a ship and they were like an original ship, but I didn't really like see the ship work or know, you know what I mean? Like I didn't experience Chris before. Quite frankly, people hated him. And I knew why, right? Like because like Google it, right? YouTube it.
If you get into BLs, like you figure out very quickly what scandals they've had in the past, which is, you know, interesting.
And so I like fully went into this one and watched it like kind of starting with like, ew, at Chris.
Yeah, interesting.
And then I watched the show and I was like, wow, he's really good. Like honestly, Chris is a great actor. And I think it would be weird in this episode of the podcast if we didn't talk about that. Like, I actually do think that Chris, now I've said this before, like I don't buy his merch. Like
amazing.
Like I don't buy his merch, but like I think that he's apologized. I think that a lot of the things that he said that, or one particular thing that he has said is like pretty unforgivable, and like therefore like we don't buy his merch and we like are not like Chris supporter, whatever.
Right.
But like the other half of things that went on and that people like thought about him and assumed about him, and like kind of the way that he said it, he has since apologized for and like done better and not made the mistake again. And I think that like you can't tell someone that they did wrong, ask them to fix it, and then when they do, you still don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I feel like that's not how it works, right? Either you want them to say sorry, fix it, and do better, or there's like no redemption, in which case, what's the point?
Yeah.
And so, like, again, one half of the things that he did, like, kind of unforgivable. The other half of things that he said, awful. But when it was pointed out to him how terrible it was, he said he was sorry, and then he fixed it, and then he didn't do it again.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing that, like, even for the actors who were involved in those early BLs, we're coming from a society where, like, they didn't know any better, right? And so the context of this situation is like until you're confronted with like what your biases are, like you can't really address them. And so I think that's again the like even the shows themselves, like if you think about the shows themselves, we were just talking about this today about the fact that like we've really gotten away from
I don't like men, I just like him, right? And things like that. And those sort of like toxic approaches.
And so it's been nice because like you kind of have like the coming out is no longer a thing that really happens in these shows. And so it's more of like I think I like him, and they're like, okay, cool.
Right.
Like do your thing. Who cares if it's a man? Like whatever. And so I think that's you see the growth, especially when you start with shows of today and go back to these older shows. Like you don't start anybody with SOTUS.
No. And why would you? I mean, honestly, I think it's a good show. It's entertaining. I like the storyline. I like the actors and the way they act together. It was just an interesting journey for me because I went into it really disliking Chris. And then I came out of it sort of understanding why people stood by him.
And then you watch like, a lot of their ship work, don't you?
Well, yeah, I went back and started watching the ship work because I was like, I want to understand.
Right.
Like after that, I wanted to understand, and I watched it and I was like, wow, yeah, he really understands the assignment. And like, honestly, like he kind of carries their ship. Like he kind of like does the ship work.
Yeah.
And so I was like, like I went into it really disliking him, and I came out of it after watching him act and being like, oh, wow, he's actually really talented. And then after going back and watching the ship work and watching like other aspects of his personality and other things, when I was like, okay, I understand how people would like stand by him,
right,
or like not fully hate him, like right, like I can now understand like the other side's perspective a lot better.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, SOTUS. So I watched it early on, and then like rewatching it now, I'm like, oh, it's just nice, kind of sometimes to go back and see like actors in their like baby days,
the origins. Oh yeah, I fully am like, I really love the Kongpob artiste of it all, but
Baby Off, Baby Off. And on that note, like I love Baby New because I love New. Like I watch everything he's been in, and so Baby New was a fun one for me.
Baby Off, and with the like, hairstyle and like the character that Off plays too is very just Baby Off. Oh, does it for me. Another thing that was interesting about the show was like the pink milk situation. Yeah, because this was my intro to pink milk.
Yeah, I know, it was one of the first Thai like food things that like
I was like, ooh, I want to try that.
We had to really go search for.
Right. Oh yeah, this was like our first adventure was to find the syrup, the Sala cider,
because we love to like try the stuff that they have in the shows, because in the States like we can't just like go to the grocery store and pick up like the
Sala syrup, right?
Yeah, like, or like the sodas that they have on like, or the drinks that they have that are like specifically Thai, or like the Thai lays or whatever. Yeah. And so like you kind of have to go on this adventure. Luckily Houston has like a great multicultural.
We went on an adventure and found the syrup, and we like made it.
It was like in a grocery store that was also half a restaurant, which was really fun and very like Thai. Like it only had Thai stuff,
only Thai things,
and it was in the middle of nowhere. It felt.
Yes, it was. It's in the middle of nowhere. We have since found like a new source.
Yes,
and it's so close.
And is also a restaurant and a store, but in like a shopping center,
in a mall. It's a whole thing.
In a Hong Kong mall, which was really funny. But yeah.
Yeah, so the pink milk situation was fun. And
it's interesting because it smells
like
wild.
Bubble. It smells like bubble gum. Okay, this is one thing.
It smells like medicine. Like that.
This is one thing that I always hate when people are like talk about a food and I'm like, but what does it taste like? And what does it smell like that you can't get? Now, solid syrup is pretty easy to get. Like, honestly, you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Also, if you have like any type of like Thai anything in your town, they probably have this in stock. But it smells like bubble gum. And like when it comes out of the bottle, it's like thick and like kind of, and you're like,
yeah, because you've made it every time. I haven't actually made it,
and you're like, oh, this is and like,
and it's
you
milk.
Have to
and you
do
don't
a
like
lot.
milk either.
I don't really drink milk.
Yeah.
And so it like. There's a lot going on that I didn't
understand why
Singto
is like, why do you like pink milk so much?
But it has a very different flavor to how it smells.
Yeah, it's pretty like
mild.
It's not that sweet. Like it.
I think it's kind of sweet, but
as someone who like loves sweets, this is pretty. It's pretty medium sweetness. Like it's not like that Thai tea sweetness that we had.
But I can understand why this is like a drink for little kids, which is the point in the show. Right after I drink it is like in the point in the show is that Kongpob is like, oh, you're this big scary like engineer hazer, and you drink pink milk.
And our tea. When he's having that conversation with his friend is like, let me try something different. Let me try Americano. And it's so funny because in that moment I was like, Americano is it's not the stepping stone from this to coffee. Like you go with a latte. Like that's your middle ground, right? Where it's like a little bit of coffee and mostly milk. And so like that will be your stepping stone.
Yeah.
Like don't go to black coffee because that's essentially what Americano is.
It was so funny. And let's see if I can say this with a straight face. I'm really going to try.
Oh my God.
After the context that was given to us about engineers by this person that we talked to.
It makes even more sense.
The pink milk thing makes so much more sense in the context of like why that particular character and that particular major were chosen, and then like the pink milk paired with that. I don't know, like you just have to watch in March. And it will make so much more sense.
Wait for it, guys.
It's literally killing me.
But yeah, the pink milk is a fun thing. Food actually plays a big part in the show, which is fun.
Yeah, there's a whole like very dark blue kiss, like chili pepper situation. Like Kongpob can't eat spicy, and then RT is like, you know, with the spiciness when he sees it, and it's like a whole thing. Yeah. They
also have a little bit of a like bad buddy, like dumpling but meatball situation, right? Where he's like, you like the meatballs, it's another one of those like food tropes where it's like, I like you, so let me give you some food.
Right.
Which is very cute. I just watched another show in another culture that like they gave them food and I was like, oh, they're clearly
it was semantic error.
Oh, right. And he was like, and it was funny because the girls at the next table were like, oh, he gave him food, they must be close. I was like,
you see this also funny. In We Best Love when Richard and Evan start sharing food and everybody is just like,
oh yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, we have an episode coming out in March with William. And we actually specifically ask him about the dynamics of sharing food. It's a very intense conversation. I really try and iron out the details.
Because I think that's the thing when you watch shows from a different culture, you don't know how much is cultural and how much is just like TV. A trope they made up.
Right.
Because you're like, is this something that happens in real life? Because that would be ridiculous. Just for TV?
Like, if I give you like a wonton out of my soup, are we married now?
Because I'm
like, are we legally married? I don't understand. Like,
oh, that's really funny. Yeah, and speaking of tropes, like this show has a lot of the good classic tropes, which is always fun to go back. Of the classics, where would you rate? Where would you put SOTUS? Like when you're like, hey, you're into BLs now, you should go back and watch these shows. Is SOTUS like at the top of that list? Because you have like what? Like Together With Me, Together, SOTUS.
You know, it's so weird that Together is a classic because it's relatively new.
It's true.
So, like, that's what was going to be my question. What defines a classic? Is it the year? Is it like the vintage?
Pre-Tarn Type.
Because Tarn Type was 2020, right?
Right. I feel like Tarn Type really like changed some dynamics, right? Like,
so what do you have then? You have Dark Blue Kiss. You have, do we consider Puppy Honey?
I don't know.
I mean, Puppy Honey is like the intro of Off Gun.
Yeah. So Theory of Love.
Well, wait. Was Theory of Love pre-Tarn Type or post-Tarn Type?
I don't know. The special
BL Time makes no sense.
The special episode was post. Because I remember when the special episode of Theory of Love posted, and I was like, I'm so confused. I thought the show was over a while ago.
Let's say. Okay, why don't we just say GMMTV classics?
Okay, yeah.
Because that's easier.
Yeah, that's easier.
Because I think Together marks the heyday of GM. You know what I mean? Like the new era.
I know. We need to do a timeline. We've talked about this. We need to do a BL history
timeline because it's so confusing because you watch them all and you're like, I don't understand what time is.
Tale of a Thousand Stars and Futz came out in the same year, but they feel like drastically different shows.
It feels like 2 different years for me.
And that was just last year. And Bad Buddy came out in the same year of A Tale of a Thousand Stars. That's wild.
Bad Buddy started in Buddy started in 2021.
Isn't that wild?
Nothing makes sense. Make it make sense.
And Tarn Type season 2 ended last year.
Because
Don't Say No is at the end of last year.
Don't Say No is 2020. I feel like Don't Say No is the only one that is like anchored in my brain. Don't Say No is 2021, like solidly 2021.
And it's now going to be on Gaga, which is super exciting.
Yeah, but okay, so I feel like for GMMTV, the like heyday started.
And now we're getting Love Mechanics in 2022.
So, like, of the GMMTV classics, what do you have? You have Dark Blue Kiss, you have Theory of Love, you have SOTUS. And SOTUS S.
Maybe it's the like pillars of GMMTV.
The pillars.
Like,
so where would I rank them in the the original pillars? Because of course we know the pillars do be shifting.
Oh yeah, for sure. The pillars have like completely there is a new cathedral.
Yes. Maybe we're not knocking down any pillars.
No.
We're just adding pillars. We need
expanding.
more pillars. There are more than 4 now.
1000%.
So like my top pillar is Tainu still.
It's like when people talk about SM and they're like Shiny built this. It's like NCT 127 built like SM Town.
So I would say like Tainu, Off Gun, Chris Singto, Brightwin. Yeah. That's my order.
Tainu, Chris Singto.
No. Tainu, Off Gun, Chris Singto, Brightwin.
Interesting. Yeah. I can see that. Yeah. Dark Blue Kiss is a classic.
Tainu is some of the only ship work that I will just go, like, I'll just go search Tainu.
They were the original. They're friends. Maybe they want to kiss.
True.
Listen, GMMTV, great job of like finally figuring that out.
Because GMMTV is fully on board with the whole they're friends. Maybe they want to kiss.
Yeah. And it is working out so well for them.
First and Cow Tongue haven't even been in a show together yet. And like, we are all rabid for them.
So rabid.
We are all rabid.
It's like we fully were like, Pod, Cow Tongue, we want them together. And they were bye.
Who is Fluke Gowan best friends with so that we can get him into the like tip top? We just had this conversation. Anyways, this is a serious Sunday about SOTUS.
You know, all these characters are in there. Oh my gosh, they needed to have Bright or Win in the show, and then they would have had at least one of all the pillars. Oh.
Bright and Win were like babies, though.
I was gonna say, I forget how young they are. Like, Win just turned 23, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
because all those OG boys are like almost 30,
right?
Or
are 30. Yeah,
which is interesting. So, were Bright and Win like teenagers when Together came out? No. Because Together
wasn't that long ago.
I know, it makes no sense.
No. But Bright and Win this is like a fun Easter egg, show up on the wall in Dark Blue Kiss when Pete About a Boys goes to like the like production company or whatever, right? And he walks past a room that has a bunch of boys' pictures on the walls.
Yeah.
And I had to pause it a few times. I was like, oh, that's Bright.
Amazing. Together. Okay, there we go. Together's a boy band. Didn't know that. Came out in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. But like early 2020, I'm assuming?
The same year. It came out the same year as Tarn Type. At one point, somebody had made a graphic showing like Together's domination, and it showed all of the
February to May of
2020. It showed all of the BLs that came out in 2020 and view counts.
Okay.
And it showed how Together grew. So like I have a pretty good understanding of what came out in 2020 only because of that graphic.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to see a full chart.
But so that's what's crazy about SOTUS is that it remains a classic and Chris Singto remain a pillar. Let's not get it twisted. These two still do ship work. They still do couple work. When Singto went and did his monkhood, Chris was the one commenting on the photo that was like, oh, so now we can tell people we've been married.
Yeah.
Right? So like
and it's fully like getting asked questions at like his press conference for like something else.
Right. So these two are still a solid sailing ship.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, that's crazy because this was 2016 and Brightwind, another pillar, was 2020, right? So
4
like
years later.
The longevity these two have. And so like we know that Tainu
are still together.
Right. But like they're
still doing ship work.
They're still doing ship work, but in a different way.
Like,
right.
Because they have like photo shoots together, right? Like they just did like a mint photo shoot.
Yes.
They do a lot of like product promotion, I think for China actually.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of those like video calls, but
so like basically Tainu, I will say Tainu does not do as much ship work.
Are Off Gun the only OG ship that didn't have any scandal?
I think so. Well, Gun did have like a small situation or last year in 2021.
Right.
I wouldn't say it was like a scandal. It was just like he was trying to live his life and people were like, ah.
Yeah.
Like that's what happened.
How dare you?
How dare you live a life?
Stay tuned for our next interview. Speaking of, I'm so sorry. Listen, if you've made it this far on a series Sunday, you're a true listener, and you probably already know. Let's be honest.
You might already know. Like it's an OG.
Yeah. So, anyways, what were you saying?
Oh yeah. So Chris Singto.
We're gonna keep this about SOTUS.
The longevity that this ship has is pretty amazing because, like, again, Tainu do a different kind of ship work,
right? And
even Off Gun does a very interesting brand of ship work, which is like up through last year, they had like these like fun little YouTube shows that they did, right?
Yeah.
And so like, but as far as like surviving to the point of like Singto left GMMTV and there's still a ship, like the longevity these two have, and SOTUS still being a classic,
right?
When they're compared to and in the same pillar system as a Brightwind that's 2020,
right,
is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is interesting. Go watch SOTUS if you haven't. It's one of the pillars.
Yeah.
What are the pillar shows of GMMTV? I mean, Bed Buddy. Bed Buddy's just the house. At this point.
But like again, it's like when you say pillar, because the pillars now are shifting, right? So like Earth Mix is now a pillar.
I feel like there are going to be eras instead of pillars.
Right.
You know? Because,
although we say this, Chris Singto is still going strong.
It's true.
Tainu are still doing ship work.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
it'll be interesting to see if in like 5 years these boys are bored and they're like, hey, let's go do a show together. How funny would that be?
I mean,
we got a SOTUS.
What's very curious is this whole Chris Mike Chris. Do we know? What order does it go in? What's the order?
Tell us.
Does anyone know?
Mike.
What's the order? Mike.
Chris Mike.
Chris Mike. Would it be Chris Mike because Chris is older?
Mike
Chris because Mike is more like dominant personality wise. I feel like that's usually the order I go in, is like who has the louder personality, right? Like if I don't know, I just go with like who's louder.
I don't know.
Because like, for example, You're My Sky.
Oh my god.
Why is it Like, I understand why.
Because here's the thing. You've talked about this before. The fact that in SOTUS, we have something very interesting where the ship is in a different order than the show.
Correct. Because canon in the show is Kongpob Artit, which is Singto Chris. But in Ship World, it's Chris Singto because, and here's my guess, Chris has the louder personality when you get the two of them together. Yeah.
Singto Chris.
And Chris, in their ship work, Chris tends to take more care of Singto.
Right.
Like, I was watching a Filipino fan meeting that they did, and, like, Chris is, like, almost, like, Singto is clearly feeling very, like, vulnerable and, like, because, you know, English, and it's hard, and it's scary, and whatever.
Right.
And, like, Chris is, like, literally... Sorry. Is literally physically, like, puts his body in front of Singto. So he, like, protects him a little bit. So I think that's why it's Chris Singto. But, like, it is a very curious question. Like, when you think about this, the Mike Christ of it all, of, like, why do we assume it's Mike Chris? We haven't seen the show. They haven't even really done ship work outside of Safe House. And when we were watching Safe House, we didn't know it was ship work at the time.
They did an armchair.
But, like, they haven't really done ship work,
I think also it depends on, like, how their name flows.
True. But it's like, how do we as fans
would be weird.
Just, like, instinctively choose this before you know what's canon in the show? So, like, for example, You're My Sky, the reason I bring up You're My Sky is I'm like, it's a currently airing show, so, like, we don't actually know what's canon or not yet, like, for any of them except for Boom Jump. And we don't even know, to be fair. Although, like, there's an implication. The implications.
Is there?
I mean,
there's now implication that they got together.
No, now that Kat has translated that it's not cone, it's plug.
Right.
And, like...
But he just says we used one.
True.
But not that one. Like, there's no implication as to who did what.
True. Anyways, it's like, how, if you don't know what's canon in a show, how do you... So, like, also typically it has to do with, like, so Kuhart was really good at explaining this back during Until We Meet Again days.
Right.
When he was like, it's about who takes care of the other person. So, like, again, in You're My Sky, it is established very early that that's Boom Jump, right? Like, Boom makes sure he has food. Boom is the one driving the truck, right? Like, he, like, does all the things.
Right.
So, like, but for the other couples, it's a currently airing show. We don't actually know it's canon. We're still watching the characters being developed.
Right.
And everyone has already decided it's Chris Porsche. And everyone has already decided that it's Tae-sua. Right? Yeah. And so, like... But how and why? It's just all very interesting and curious to me.
I know. It is. A lot of it, I think, has to do with names. Because it would be weird to say, like, Porsche Chris.
Why, though?
Chris Porsche.
Why is that weird? It's only weird because we've been saying Chris Porsche.
I guess so. Because we say V Dome, don't we?
I don't say anything about them because Dome's a villain. To be fair, I don't say anything about them.
It's true.
But, like, okay, and also, like...
We just say Sua.
Right, Sua. But, like, Tae-sua doesn't sound any better than Sua Tae, right? Like, it all sounds the same together.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, like, how you know?
I don't know. Okay, we digress.
Anyways.
So, yeah, we have merch. I always love doing this. Thank you guys to the ones that are still listening. You're probably still listening and you've also bought our merch.
You've probably already bought the merch.
Haven't bought our merch, you should, because it's comfy and good quality.
There's some pink stuff.
And it's just, like, fun. You should take photos of yourself.
It's a great sales pitch. I love
it. Again, we need to add more, like, little quotes and things that we've talked about.
I don't know. You could be a gang daddy.
You could. Somebody just ordered a Gang Daddy shirt, which I really love.
I love.
We are going to add a shirt that says he's just going through something.
Because he is.
It's true. And if you have suggestions on what other merch we should have, let us know.
If you have suggestions on what other series Sundays we should do, let us know.
Let us know. Stay tuned for March, y'all.
Honestly,
It's gonna be wild.
It's gonna be wild. It's about to get crazy at Let's Talk BL. Like, this whole season has been crazy, and I don't really understand what's happening.
I don't either.
To be fair, we do try really hard.
We try so hard,
but also
we just have good luck.
The BL gods are in our favor.
Nothing makes sense. Everything is confusing.
It's true.
And March is going to be crazy. So until then, this has been Let's Talk BL. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and keep up with all things Let's Talk BL at Let's Talk BL. See you next time.